Couple things before we get into this week. I know I said it the other night, but just want to thank our fans again for the sellout last Saturday against Charlotte. Every week as a team after a win, we have our awards each week, players of the game. I mentioned that to you guys on the Sunday night teleconference, but then we also do a Gamecock MVP is what we call it, and that's somebody that's gone above and beyond, or somebody we want to honor, somebody that maybe a player, maybe a coach, maybe a staff member, maybe somebody in the community. It's a lot of different things, just somebody that embodies what we're about as a program. So we had two winners this week. One was this man right here, Joe Lyle, for all he does to go above and beyond the Call of Duty and some things that he did last week to get the video board up and operational for the game on Saturday as well, that he did on Friday and Saturday to get that done. But then the other one that our team and I that we honored as the Gamecock MVP for last week was our fans. To have another sellout in Williams-Brice Stadium. 2 of 3 were non-SEC football games. I watch all around the country, and I turn on games when I watch, and I see half-empty stadiums. I see quarterbacks at other schools talking about how bad the atmosphere is at his own home game. I hear talk about how hard it is now to get people in the seats, that it's easier to just stay at home and watch TV. So we appreciate our fans and want to thank them again for when people talk about this across college football, the Gamecocks are the outlier because we don't have to worry about filling up that place across the street. So we don't take it for granted, our players and coaches and staff, and for that reason, our fans, the people that were in Williams-Brice Stadium were our award winners as Gamecock MVP for this past week as well. A couple things on injuries. We're in pretty good position right now. I would say that Rush is questionable this week. I would say that Wanham is doubtful this week, and then everybody else would expect to get back. David Spalding practiced a little bit today, so that was good to have him out there, and optimistic that everyone else will be back as well. Certainly a unique week with a quicker turnaround. I want to thank it was great collaboration with South Carolina State and Coach Pugh and our administration and South Carolina State to change the kickoff time. So glad we were able to get that done, and want to thank this is a university decision, and certainly appreciate our university and working with athletics and the conversations that Coach Tanner and our administration had as well, along with South Carolina State, because I know it's a lot that goes into changing a kickoff time. There's a lot of logistics at play as well, so there's a lot of people involved. So fortunate we were able to get that done. I've been here for a lot of Thursday night games here in Columbia. I know how electric and special they can be. I told the team out there after practice this morning, I remember some really special ones. I told them about 2008 when I think it was Russell Wilson and NC State. Is that right, David? NC State and Russell Wilson came in here and got blanked 34-0 on a Thursday night. Told them about the 2009 Ole Miss game. I think that was the first time we ever played Sandstorm, if I'm not mistaken. They came in here ranked number 4 in the country and got beat. And then I'd forgotten about 2007. Kentucky was a top 10 team and came in here and got beat on a Thursday night. And then don't y'all forget 2009, the boys from Hattiesburg, or 2010, the boys from Hattiesburg, Southern Miss ran in here on a Thursday night. So we had a Thursday night home game every year that I was here as an assistant coach, and had some awesome Thursday nights out there in Columbia, and hopeful that this Thursday will be just as electric and as exciting as well. We know how our fans feel about a night game. Our players were excited this morning when I told them as well, and not sure what the latest is on the TV, but I'm assuming it's going to be on television, and very few schools that'll be on at the same time, if any. I think there's a West Coast game or Mountain West game on Thursday night, but won't be a lot to choose from if people want to watch college football on Thursday night. So excited about it, but we've got to also play well. This is a really talented team that Coach Pugh has. So much respect for Buddy Pugh and the man he is and the coach he is, And then as well, I mean, just the legends of South Carolina State, guys like Willie Jeffries, who I've got so much respect for and I enjoy being around every chance I get. So tons of respect for their program. They got a lot of really good players. There's a lot of talk last year about Jackson State, and rightfully so. People forget that South Carolina State beat Jackson State 31-10 in the last game of the season in their bowl game last year as well. A lot of guys that are key guys that were on that team are still on this team as well. This is a really, really athletic group led by a veteran quarterback. A lot of these NFL scouts that come through Columbia to watch us practice, when I usually ask them, where are you headed next? And the majority of them are headed to Orangeburg to go watch South Carolina State, because I know they had a high draft pick last year in the defensive back, and they're going to have some guys off this year's team that are going to be draft picks as well, notably that the receiver, number 1, that they have out there as well. So this is a really athletic group, and we know how important this game is to them and our state and us as well. So we've got to have a really quick preparation, but a solid preparation, because this is a talented team coming in here that'll be excited to play on Thursday night as well. So what kind of questions y'all got? Why are you even raising your hand? You know you're not going to get the first question over David, Ben. You and Rick, y'all are racing for that first question. One day, goals.
It's going to not show up one day. Shane, you get the news on a Tuesday, and I guess maybe in the middle of practice. So what do you have to do to, get the most out of this practice, the next day's practice, make sure you're ready? Are there some things you just have to cut out of what you want to work on?
Yeah, I would say last night I knew that it was maybe a possibility. So you kind of had like plan A, plan B, and I didn't tell everybody. I mean, I've kind of had conversations with the coordinators, just say, don't be shocked. I didn't know, but I didn't know until this morning as well, 100% for sure. So had we knew before we hit the practice field, I think at 9:45, I think we started today. So knew before we went on the practice field that. So you certainly adjust. Yeah. So to answer your question, it's a quick turnaround. You can't do everything, but you also want to get, because we played Saturday. We didn't practice on Sunday, and then Monday's our off day anyway. So it's been since Saturday that our guys were on the field. So we got out there this morning and did very much our normal Tuesday practice. Just we weren't in full pads and we were a little bit shorter, and then we threw some things out as well. And then tomorrow and the next day will be kind of a combination of what we typically do on a Thursday and a Friday, just condense it and try and get it done in 2 days closer to game time. So yeah, it's unique. We didn't play any Thursday games on a short week when I was at Georgia or Oklahoma, but we did a bunch of them, obviously, when I was here as an assistant coach, and then I was at Virginia Tech. We used to play a lot of Thursday night games as well, so it's not the first time we've done it. And then we told our players this morning it's very much like the NFL teams that play on Sunday and then turn right back around and play on Thursday. And I think this week it's the Dolphins and the Bengals, so we actually reached out to Miami just to kind of get an idea of what their schedule was this week. And then we've got NFL coaches here, guys on our staff that have coached in the NFL that have done that as well. So there's no perfect plan, but we're trying to put together the best thing for our team at this moment.
Hey, Shane, you were on staff here in 2009, the last time the Gamecocks played SC State. What do you remember about that game? And also, when you talk to the team about SC State, do you mention the pride and the tradition the Bulldogs have, especially producing 4 guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I remember that we ran a reverse on a kickoff return that night is the only thing I remember about that game, I'll be honest with you. I was coaching special teams and had a thing that we had been working on. I think it was like Wesley Saunders was involved maybe, but kind of caught it and ran a reverse over there towards their sideline. And I'll be honest, that's about all I remember about it. But in regards to our South Carolina State, I think our players know for sure, and that's no disrespect to South Carolina State. Every week we don't spend a ton of time talking about the other team, but we also made them very aware this morning that this is a talented team. There was a high draft pick last year on their team. They're going to have NFL players or players get drafted off this year's team. We've got so many guys on our team from South Carolina. They know what this program, South Carolina State's program, is about without a doubt. And I was looking at their roster yesterday. I think I think their entire roster is from South Carolina except for 9 or 10 guys that are not from South Carolina. So everybody on our team pretty much knows everybody on their team. So there's great pride on both sides, and there's a ton of respect for South Carolina State's program. And all you have to do is turn on the tape and see that, and then also see what they were able to do last year against quality teams like Jackson State.
Hey, Coach. Even with the guys that are just coming off of injuries, are technically healthy but still banged up, how does having that short turnaround affect recovery? Like, is there anything you're doing to kind of just adjust things for that group that's, either not quite healthy or freshly healthy?
Yeah. No, it's that's the one, I don't want to say negative, but one thing that's maybe not as good because it's less time for those guys to get well. Part of that was we didn't practice on Sunday, so it gave them a little bit of extra time in the meeting room, in the weight room, and in the training room to kind of get their bodies recovered and whatnot going into the new week. Yesterday was an off day, so that was kind of a physical break. So even though they're off, I mean, those guys are doing whatever they can to get ready to play as well. And if they weren't able to do much in practice today, there's really not much you can do tomorrow because tomorrow is the day before the game. So honestly, it's just kind of trying to fit a lot of recovery and rehab and prep into a shorter period of time. And whether it's an injured player, whether it's a coach who now has, 2 less nights or days of preparation like you normally would be. I mean, normally, what's today, Tuesday? So normally I'd be walking out of here and we'd be getting ready for the Wednesday practice, which is third down, and then the Thursday practice, which is red zone, and then a Friday walkthrough. Well, we don't. I mean, we'll walk out of here now and spend the rest of the day getting ready for third down, red zone, end of game situations, 2-minute, 4-minute coming out, all that you normally have all week to do. So it's just there's not enough hours in the day, but also, for the players as well, it's there's got to be an even higher sense of urgency, to get ready to play, whether you're healthy or not.
Shane, a little bit off of what Rick was asking. I mean, you've seen it with in Mississippi where, the Mississippi schools don't always play Jackson State. I know you guys have played South Carolina State a couple of times in the last few years. I guess I don't know that it's on the schedule, at least for the next foreseeable future. I mean, is this a game you guys would like to keep on the schedule at least going forward? Or I guess how does
Yeah, I think it's great for the state. I know we play Wofford and Furman, I think, coming up in the next couple years as well. So I think it's great for the state when you have when you're able to play the in-state schools are able to play each other. I know South Carolina State played Clemson last year, and we obviously play them this year. So, yeah, I'm all for it, and it's a talented team that you're going to play each and every year. It's a well-coached team, and it's a program that we have a ton of respect for with Coach Pugh and what they do.
Kind of taking you back down memory lane again. You were on the Georgia staff in 2016, where the game got pushed back because of a hurricane. Do you remember? Do you remember anything about that week and kind of how weather affects preparation? Or it's a little bit different this time with being up. But is there anything you remember from that?
Yeah, good question. I forgot about that. It was a Sunday game, wasn't it? Not much, because I want to say we found out like on Thursday of that week that the game was getting moved. So we had really at Georgia. We had been through our entire week of practice, and then it was one of those, okay, you finish practice on Thursday, and normally you're getting ready to play on Saturday. Well, this time it was you get ready to play, you finish practice on Thursday, and it's, we're not leaving to bus over to Columbia tomorrow. You got one extra day in Athens. So it was a little bit different because you actually had more prep time because of it. Honestly, I remember 2 things. There were no hotels. So whatever hotel we were supposed to stay in, we couldn't get into. So we actually stayed at the National Advocacy Center right here on campus, that's a story in itself. And it's the things that stay with you. I remember there was a presidential debate that night between what would have been Trump and Clinton, I guess, in 2016. And I just remember that being on the bus that I was on with the players going back to Athens that night, that we had the presidential debate on, and just hearing players in the back talk on both sides and stuff like that was just kind of unique. So I remember the game. We were turned an onside kick for a touchdown at the end of the game, Terry Godwin, and thought it was a beautiful day in Columbia. But outside of that, it's the weird things like that stay with me. But not much to draw back on because, like I said, you had been through the we had been through the whole week of prep. It's more like when I was at, Virginia Tech, we played, I think, Marshall one time on a Saturday afternoon, went to like 2 overtimes, and then we had to turn around and fly to Atlanta and play Georgia Tech and their old offense on Thursday night, So those are the challenges on a short week for sure.
You've mentioned Coach Pugh a few times at this point. Just how well have you gotten to know him? What's that relationship like? I think you guys were at Coaches for Charity this summer together and a lot of other events. Just what do you like about that relationship with him and what a staple he is around here?
Yeah, he's just such a great man, to be able to be at one school for so long. Says a lot about him, the kind of person he is and the coach that he is as well. He's so respected in this state from his time as a high school coach and then what he's done as a head coach now at South Carolina State. Just being able to, him being at Carolina or him being at South Carolina State, me being here, obviously you cross paths, whether it be, recruiting in schools at the same time, or like you mentioned, the Coaches for Charity event that Rick's a part of in the summertime as well, getting to spend time with him and Coach Jeffries at that event also. They have a touchdown club or a quarterback club down in Orangeburg that I think I spoke at when I was an assistant coach, and some of our coaches have been involved in as well. So tons of respect for him, and it starts with the kind of person he is, but a fantastic coach as well.
Hey, Shane, what were those conversations like with Ray Tanner over the last couple of days? Do you have that much input when it comes to something like this? Like, hey, can we move this to maybe Sunday or move it to the end of the season? Were there conversations like that? And I guess the other part is, what did you learn from the Miami Dolphins this week?
Let me see. First of all, with Coach Tanner, it wasn't super in depth. It really didn't get to we never really talked about changing the day of the game other than moving it up to Thursday. There were a couple different scenarios we talked about kickoff time wise for Saturday that came up. Thursday then came up, and this was last night. Dinner time probably started. He and I talked on the phone about a couple different things, and then I want to say that he reached out to, our bosses here at Carolina, and he reached out, I believe, to Coach Pugh as well, to kind of see where they were with things. And I was all for Thursday, and South Carolina State obviously was all for Thursday, and then beyond that, it was me just giving my opinion, and then after that, it was out of my hands. I mean, we were ready to go either way, whether it was Saturday, whether it was Thursday, or whenever. And then in regards to the Dolphins, honestly, not much. Saw their schedule for what they were going to do. What's today? Tuesday, what they were going to do tomorrow, and what they were going to do on Thursday. So that was really the kind of the gist. There wasn't an in-depth conversation with me and the Dolphins in regards to our schedule. It was just a copy of what their schedule was or is today, tomorrow, and Thursday. And then also just being able to talk to Freddie or Jody or Sterling Lucas and those guys on our staff that have been a part of short weeks in the NFL. And it's a little bit different too, because we have this thing called class, that Tua doesn't have as the quarterback for the Dolphins right now. So he's got a little bit more time during the day to get ready for the Bengals this week, as opposed to Spencer Rattler, who's going to class right now, today and tomorrow.
Yeah, putting on a bit of a long lens here. How would you describe Coach Pugh's significance in the state, in the sport, and in the coaching firmament you've been around since you were an infant?
Yeah, that's deep. Strong, just like I said, goes back to the kind of person he is. But I think anytime, and I saw this with my dad at Virginia Tech, anytime that you're able to stay at one school so long and to also coach in one state for so long goes to show how, one, how good you are at your job, two, the kind of person you are, and then three, the kind of coach you are, to be. Because if people in this state don't like you and don't think you're very good and don't think you're a great person, you're probably not going to last long coaching in this state, whether it's high school, college, whatever it may be. He has, and it's a testament to him. And then I think you look at his coaching staff and the guys that are on this staff. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they either played for him at South Carolina State or they've coached with him for a long, long time. And, it reminds me a lot same thing, my dad being at Virginia Tech for so long and a staff that was with him for so long as well starts with the kind of people they are.
Shane, I know it's all about, this week's game and everything, but you're the head coach. You've got to think about it. Have you thought about the logistics of the weekend? Usually after Thursday night games, the guys get, they get to go home perhaps or something, but we don't know what's going to happen with this storm or anything like that. So have you thought about what's going on after Thursday's game?
Yeah, you're correct. All we're focused on is the game on Thursday, but certainly, they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They want to know what their schedule is, for the weekend as well. So they'll be off on Saturday. Our guys, they need a little break. Coaches too. We as coaches, I don't think we've had a true day off since the first day of practice or the day before the first day of practice back in August. So Saturday will be a day that we're not here in the facility. For sure, players, depending on what the weather is, they'll have that day off as well if they want to get home. And then I think Friday is depending on weather and for all the students that are reaching out to me about the class schedule on Friday, I don't decide if classes are canceled or not here. As I'm on your side, I want to help, but I don't make that call. So stop contacting me. But depending on what the class schedule is on Friday, for the students here at Carolina, whether there's classes or not, and I don't know, would determine a lot based on what our guys do. But ideally, we'd have class. I'd get them here on Friday, the players. We'd be able to kind of put this game to bed, the South Carolina State game, check injuries. Hopefully there are none, and then give them Friday night, Saturday, and then we'd be back in here on Sunday getting ready for the next game.
Shane, kind of sticking with football, but Sat was in here a week or 2 weeks ago talking about still learning what this offense does well. Now that you're a quarter of the way through the schedule and kind of have a bigger sample size, what does this offense do well, and what's maybe next for it outside of consistency?
I think if we need to be able to me, we've shown that we can run the ball, and I don't just take the South Carolina State game. I take what I told you guys from the Arkansas game. We didn't run it a lot, but when we ran it in non-goal line, short yardage situations, we were somewhat efficient against Arkansas. Georgia, I know the game got out of hand a little bit there in the second half, but we were able to pop some runs in there and even early on as well. So I've got confidence in our run game, so I believe that we'll continue to get better there and that we've shown that we can run the ball. And, for me, it's just knowing that we've got weapons on our offense. We've got different people, whether it be our tight ends, our receivers, or our running backs, or our quarterback that have shown that they can make plays and that they're weapons. So for me, Colin, it's continue to run the ball efficiently, continue to get the ball to these playmakers, the multiple playmakers that we have on our offense, and just get better in the passing game as well also. So, it's not like anything coming out of Charlotte was a eye-opener. If you look at everything from like a 30,000-foot view of the last 4 games, it's a lot of the same things I knew going into Arkansas and coming out of Arkansas as well. Now we just got to operate more consistently as well and continue to get better.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Thursday night games from when you were an assistant coach here.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory from those?
Probably that Ole Miss game, because they were 4 in the country, weren't they? Yep, 4th in the country, Thursday night game, really, really talented, electric atmosphere in Williams-Brice Stadium. That was pretty fun, I'm weird, like how I'm wired, but just the plays that stand out. Like they faked a field goal in that game, Ole Miss did, and probably would have worked, but I actually screwed up. And the block that we had called, I called it backwards, and I think they were over on their right hash, and the block that I called for our field goal block team, I called as if we were on the left hash, which it should have worked if we had lined up like they thought we were going to line up. And because I screwed it up, we actually stopped them. So I looked smart and all that. That's the thing that stands out from that game I wish I had more for you, but I think it's the plays that almost like are catastrophic that stay with you that you avoid because of your own stupidity. They stay with you.
Speaking of catastrophic plays, does anybody from the Dolphins ask you all about punting and best ways to go about all that?
No, but it's another one when you talk to your players. When every Thursday in practice, that's one of the things that we practice when we're backed up, getting ready to kick out of our own end zone. And I'm sure the Dolphins coach this too, but one of the things we talk about is, those guys that are in front of the punter, like you got to cheat up a little bit and you can't back up, or that's going to happen. But it's nice to be able to have it happen to professionals where you can show your players, see, this is why we coach this like we do.
And you mentioned Shaq Davis, number one, a little earlier. What stands out to you about him other than just being
just his length and his size. Right away, before you even see him as a player, just his length on tape, just how tall he is and the wingspan jumps out at you. Some of the catches that he makes as well, where a guy's there and in position to make a play and he just goes up over top of him and makes it. And then his speed as well. I was watching it yesterday. He caught a ball, I think it was against Bethune-Cookman. And, it's over on the sideline, and the guy from Bethune has an angle where it should be an easy tackle, and he just outruns the guy coming at him with an angle, so it shows his speed as well. So I've been in cam and rushes and dial and their ear all morning as well, about the challenge that they have on Saturday, because I know that young man's excited for Thursday night against our defensive backs, and our guys surely will be excited for him too.
And Corey Rucker was in here earlier and pretty entertaining. What are you hoping to get from him as he gets more in shape, as he talked about, and gets, I guess, more into the flow of things? Yeah,
the only player I've ever been around that on his official visit brought his own bowling ball to go bowling with on the official visit. That was a first. He's a really talented bowler, and he was going to go bowling on his visit, so he brought his own ball on the official visit as well. Ruck's a fantastic young man. You saw that with the way that our players were excited for him the other night when he scored that touchdown and celebrated with him. People, I think, love his spirit and his energy because of I know it's been frustrating for him. I think I said this the other night, but just he never got down. He just kept working, always had a smile on his face. And then I think he's just another guy that brings a dimension to the passing game, and you can't have enough of those guys as well. But to be able to add another guy that can help from a offensive standpoint, help from a special team standpoint, continue to bring big play ability to the offense, you can't have enough of.
Hey, Coach, what is the general mood of the players for this quick turnaround? Are they excited for the challenge? And then also in terms of defense, is it easier to bring that momentum over to the next game with the games being so close, or is it kind of harder because of the less time to rest?
I think the players are excited. They didn't know. And then I told them this morning, in the team meeting before we went on the field, and it was one of those, I told them, and it was kind of hold your breath for a second. Hopefully they're excited about it, and they were. They were very excited about the opportunity to play on Thursday. I think they're very excited about the opportunity to be on television in prime time and a night game. So there's a lot of excitement about that for sure. And the way we practiced this morning too showed that as well. It wasn't a practice where it was like, oh man, we're playing Thursday, we're playing in 2 days. We had a great practice this morning. And then I think it's probably easier. I think it's, anytime you have success, you want to get right back and get at it again as quickly as possible. It's like a team that wins a football game and then has an off week. A lot of times you'll hear coaches saying, we don't want the open week or off week this week. We'd love to just keep going. And I think it's the same thing. So the opportunity to get back out there on Thursday, 5 days after we, played better in the second half against Charlotte than what we did in the first half, particularly defensively, I think it makes it easier to get back out there and go right back to work.
Hey, Coach thinks you don't have any say over the classes, but sticking with the defense, defense really turned it on in the second half.
Yeah.
You guys got Cam Smith back. You're getting R.J. Roderick back. What does that mean to get these guys back, and continuing to generate momentum like you did in that second half going down the stretch?
It's huge for a lot of different reasons. Depth, obviously, where you don't have to have guys. Nick Eamon-Wari doesn't have to play. If there's a 75-play game, he doesn't have to play all 75 plays. You got some depth. Devontae Reed doesn't have to play every play. And then just when you don't play a game with two guys that are NFL-type corners and Darius Rush and Cam, it's going to hurt anybody, and certainly didn't help us as well. So to get those guys back, one, they're really good players. Two, the depth on the defense. I think 3, it'll help with the communication on defense because you're not out there with as many true freshmen. You've got older guys that can make calls and take charge, and then also special teams as well. We had a lot of guys that, I don't want to say played too many reps, but certainly we had a lot of guys that were playing defense, offense, and special teams, maybe a little bit more than we normally would against Charlotte. So to be able to get those other defensive backs back where you've got more bodies to play on all 3 phases is definitely a plus for us. All right, see you in a couple days.